when my best friend's mom pressed closer on the dance floor, her lips near my ear, and whispered, "Don't let go just yet." I forgot how to breathe, but that came later. My name is Sean. I am 24, and I live in a small one-bedroom apartment in Eugene, Oregon. It is just big enough for a sagging couch, a cheap desk, and a coffee maker that probably hates me. I work IT for a small marketing firm. I fix servers, fight with software bugs, and answer panicked emails from people who think turning it off and on is advanced magic. It pays the rent. It keeps my days full. It does not make my heart race. I am not the center of any room. At parties, I am the guy near the wall with a drink, checking my phone, pretending to read something important. I like quiet things. Games, tech forums, late-night YouTube rabbit holes. I have dated, but every time it gets serious, my words evaporate. So people leave. They say I am distant, locked up. They are not wrong. Jason is the opposite of me. He has been my friend since college. Loud, easy, the guy who could walk into a room and walk out with 5 new contacts and 3 new stories. We did group projects together, study sessions, late-night pizza runs. He talked. I listened. Somehow it worked. When his wedding invitation came, I almost did not go. 100 people, loud music, forced smiles. It sounded like my personal final boss. But he was my friend, and bailing felt wrong. So I pulled on a navy blazer, found a tie from graduation, and drove to a small event hall on the edge of Eugene. The sky was starting to turn gold. The parking lot was full. I sat in my car for a minute, hands on the steering wheel, and told myself to just get through a few hours. Inside, the place looked like a movie set. Fairy lights strung across the ceiling, tables covered in white linen, centerpieces with white roses and tiny candles. People in suits and dresses moved around like they had done this 100 times. I grabbed a glass of white wine from a passing tray and retreated to the back of the room. The ceremony started soon after. Jason stood at the front, looking nervous and happy. His bride walked down the aisle looking like every romantic song ever written. They said their vows. People sniffed. People clapped. I joined in on cue. I told myself I would stay for the reception, eat something, then slip out before anyone noticed. During cocktail hour, I did my usual routine. I leaned against a pillar, listened to some old classmate talk about his new job in Seattle, nodded when it seemed right. My drink was already half gone. And then she walked in. I did not know who she was at first. She wore a deep green dress that caught the light every time she moved. Her dark hair was pulled back into a low bun, a few loose strands framing her face. She was tall, with a posture that was calm and sure. Her eyes were dark and sharp. They did not smile, but they held everything in the room like a quiet hand. She did not look around for attention. She already had it. I tried not to stare. Failed. She moved through the crowd with small, careful steps, stopping to hug a few people, to say something to the bride. The guy talking to me was still going on about his promotion, but his voice faded to a dull hum. Then she turned and walked straight toward me. Her heels clicked softly on the floor. My stomach dropped. There were at least 50 other people she could stop in front of. She chose me. "You are a friend of Jason's?" she asked. Her voice was low and smooth. She did not have to raise it to be heard. I stood up a little straighter and tried not to choke on my own spit. "Yeah," I said. "College. We did some projects together and stuff. Not super close now, but, close enough for an invite." I heard the words come out and wanted to take them back and rewrite them. She tilted her head a little, studying me. Up close, I could see faint lines at the corners of her eyes, the kind that come from years of real smiles, not fake ones. She looked older than me, but not old, maybe mid-40s. "I am Diana," she said, "Jason's mother." My brain stalled. His mother. She did not look like any friend's mom I had ever pictured. No apron, no mom jeans, just that green dress, and a presence that made the rest of the room feel dimmer. "Oh," I said, then wanted to delete that too. "I mean, nice to meet you." A small smile curved her lips. It was not big, but it hit harder than any full grin I had seen all night. "I hate dancing alone," she said. "Do you dance, Sean?" The way she asked it, it did not feel like a polite question. It felt like a choice. Yes or no, in or out. I almost said I do not. That I am more of a behind-the-scenes guy. That my natural rhythm belongs to keyboard taps, not music beats. Instead, I heard myself say, "Yeah, I can try." I set my glass on a nearby table and followed her to the dance floor. The band started a slow, jazzy song, something with a soft piano and a lazy drum. Other couples moved out with us, but somehow the space around her stayed clear, like people knew better than to crowd Jason's mother. She turned to face me. One of her hands rested lightly on my shoulder. The other lifted my hand and placed it at her waist. Her fingers were cool against my skin. "Just follow my lead," she said. I nodded, my heart pounding louder than the music. At first, I was sure I looked like an idiot. I kept my eyes on her shoulder to avoid staring at her face, tried not to step on her shoes, tried to remember when to move left or right. But she guided me with small movements, a little pressure here, a shift there. The more I relaxed, the easier it felt. My hand fit against her side. The curve of her waist under the fabric of her dress was warm and real. "See?" she said quietly. "You can dance." I looked up then and for the first time really met her eyes. They were not just sharp, they were searching. Like she was not just checking if I kept the beat, but if I was actually here with her. The song faded out. My chest rose and fell too fast. I stepped back, ready to thank her and retreat to my safe corner. She did not let go. "Another?" she asked. There was a small light in her eyes now, something almost playful. I nodded because words seemed dangerous. The next song started. Slower. Deeper. This time I did not think about the steps. I just moved with her. The room blurred into swirls of color. Laughter and clinking glasses faded to background noise. Her hand rested a little higher on my shoulder. My fingers settled more firmly at her back. The distance between us shrank by an inch, then another. "You are not what I expected," she said softly. "What did you expect?" I asked. "A kid hiding by the wall," she said. "Not someone who looks at me like I am actually here." I did not know what to say to that, so I held her a little closer. We danced through that song and into another. Time stretched and folded in on itself. There was just her perfume, warm and floral, and the steady rise and fall of her breathing. When the last note faded, she slipped her hand from my shoulder and stepped back. My body instantly missed the contact. "Thank you, Sean," she said. Before I could answer, she turned and walked off the floor, her green dress catching the light. People moved around her, but no one seemed to touch her. I stood alone in the middle of the dance floor, my heart still racing, my palms still tingling from where it had rested on her waist. I could have let it in there, a strange, charged moment with my best friend's mother, filed away as some weird wedding memory. Instead, I watched her disappear through a side door that led out to the garden. My feet moved before my brain could vote. Because whatever had started between us on that dance floor did not feel finished yet. The garden behind the hall was almost empty. Soft golden lights hung from low branches, casting a warm glow over the stone path and a small patch of grass. The sound of the reception was muffled out here, just a dull mix of music and laughter behind the closed doors. Diana stood near a wooden bench, her arms folded loosely, her green dress dark against the soft light. She was facing away from the hall, looking out at nothing in particular, just still, like she had unplugged herself from the party. I stopped a few feet away, suddenly aware of how quiet my footsteps sounded on the stone. "Hey," I said, my voice lower than I expected. She did not turn right away. When she did, her eyes found mine and held there. Whatever smooth, controlled look she had worn inside was gone. Her face looked softer, tired, real. "Couldn't stay away from the wall for too long?" she asked. There was a hint of a smile, but it did not reach her eyes. I shoved my hands in my pockets so she would not see them shake. "Why did you ask me to dance?" I asked, more than once. The question came out rough, honest, It surprised me as much as it seemed to surprise her. She watched me for a moment, like she was deciding if I could handle the answer. "You really want to know?" she said. I nodded. She let out a slow breath and looked past me at the hall, where shadows moved behind the big windows. Then she looked back at me again. "Because I am tired of being invisible," she said. The words were simple, but they hit hard. At my age, at a wedding like this, I am the mother of the groom, she went on, her voice steady but sharp around the edges. People tell me I look lovely. They hug me. They say, "You must be so proud." Then they move on. They talk about Jason, about the bride, about the future. Quote. Her fingers tightened on her arms. "No one asks how I am, not really. They do not see me, they see my role. And then I am supposed to smile and fade into the background." She stopped, her eyes on mine, waiting. I swallowed. My throat felt tight. "I asked you to dance," she said, softer now, "because you were standing in the corner like you were trying to disappear. And I thought maybe you would understand what it feels like to not want to vanish anymore." My chest ached. I thought about all the nights I had spent exactly like that, standing in corners, sitting at the back, making myself small. "I do understand," I said, "more than you know." Something shifted in her face, a crack in the mask. "I wanted to feel noticed," she said, "just for a song. I wanted to see if I could still make someone lose their balance." "You did," I thought. "You did more than that," I said out loud. "You did not just make me lose my balance. You made me feel like I was actually here, like I was not just some extra in the room." Her lips parted slightly. For a second, she looked almost startled. Then a real smile appeared. Small, quiet, but real. "You were not what I expected, Sean," she said. "Most guys your age look straight past me, or they make a joke about the hot mom and then walk away." "I am not most guys," I said. The words came out before I could weigh them, but I did not take them back. She took a slow step closer. The air between us felt heavier, warmer. "You do not know what you are saying," she said, but there was no warning in it, only curiosity. A careful kind of interest. "I know I do not see you as invisible," I said. "Not tonight, not now." We stood there, only a foot apart. I could see the faint shimmer of makeup beneath her eyes, the small freckle near her jaw, the rise and fall of her chest. The music from the hall shifted to something slower, a familiar piano line floating through the open door. She glanced back once, then looked at me again. "I should go back inside," she said. "Yeah," I said, "you probably should." She did not move. For a few long seconds, we just stood in the glow of the lights, staring at each other. My heart beat so hard it felt like it might break my ribs. I wanted to reach for her. I wanted to turn around and run. Both urges battled in my chest. Finally, she straightened a little, like she was putting the armor back on. "Come back in with me," she said. "One more dance. Then you can go back to your corner if you want." I almost laughed. I did not. "Okay," I said. "One more." Inside, the hall was dimmer now, the fairy lights doing most of the work. The band had started a slow song, something old and smooth that people swayed to more than danced. She led the way to the floor again, and people stepped back without being asked. Jason was at the bar, laughing with his friends, not looking in our direction. Diana turned to me, closer than before. Her hand slid up to my shoulder. She guided my hand back to her waist, but this time there was no polite space between us. Our bodies lined up, chest to chest, like the song had been made for this. "Relax," she murmured. That was the last thing I could do. We moved together, slow and steady. My feet found the rhythm easily now. It was like my body had learned her, the way she shifted her weight, the small changes in her breathing, the way her fingers curled slightly when she pulled me closer. I could feel the shape of her against me, the heat of her, the way her heartbeat matched the heavy thud in my chest. "You meant it," she said quietly, her lips near my ear. "Out there in the garden." "About what?" I asked, my voice rough. "About me not being invisible to you." "Yes," I said. "I meant it." She leaned back just enough to look me in the eyes. Whatever she saw there made something in her soften. Her hand left my shoulder and slid up the back of my neck, fingers brushing the hair there. My breath caught. Every nerve in my body lit up. "Be careful, Sean," she said. "You are making my heart do things it has not done in a long time." "Is that because of me?" I asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. She did not look away. She lowered her other hand and placed it flat against my chest, right over my racing heart. "You feel that?" she said. I nodded. I could feel both hearts now. Hers. Mine, beating, like they were trying to answer each other. "That is you," she said, "and mine is not listening to me either." The song kept playing, but we were barely moving now, just a slow sway, her hand on my neck, her palm on my chest, my fingers pressing a little harder into the small of her back. The room around us blurred. The lights, the people, the tables, all of it faded into a soft haze. In that moment, there was only her. The song began to wind down, the last notes stretching out. I felt her fingers press into my neck as if she could feel the ending coming too soon. Her mouth brushed close to my ear. I could feel her breath when she spoke. "Do not let go just yet," she whispered. The words went straight through me. So I didn't. I held her as the music died and another song started. And people clapped and shifted around us. I held her when we should have stepped apart, my hand still firm at her back, her hand still over my heart. We were standing in the middle of a crowded wedding, but it felt like we were alone. When she finally pulled back, her face was calm again, but her eyes were not. They were bright, almost shining. "I am leaving soon," she said, her voice soft. A knot formed in my chest. "If you want to know who I really am," she said, "find me after this is over." Then she stepped away, turned, and walked off the floor, her green dress disappearing into the crowd. I stayed where I was, rooted to the spot, my chest still buzzing where her hand had been. For the first time in my life, I knew I was standing on an edge. And I had no idea if I was about to jump or walk away. I did not find her after it was over. I wish I could say I marched across the room, past the cake and the bar and the small talk, and found her by the door like some movie scene. I did not. After she walked off the dance floor, I lost sight of her in the crowd. People moved in between us. A group of cousins pulled Jason into a circle. The band started a faster song. Someone clapped me on the shoulder and said something about my smooth moves. I smiled, nodded, and felt nothing. I scanned the room for that green dress, for dark hair pulled back into a bun, for those sharp eyes. I caught glimpses here and there, but every time I thought I saw her, someone stepped in the way. By the time I looked toward the head table, she was gone. The rest of the reception felt like watching a movie on mute. People ate, laughed, danced. The bride tossed her bouquet. Someone's kid grabbed the microphone and mumbled into it. I moved through it like a ghost. I waited. I lingered near the exit. I even stepped out into the garden again, just in case. The wooden bench was empty. The lights in the branches swayed in the breeze. No green dress. No Diana. Not invisible, I had told her. But she disappeared. I left earlier than most. I slipped out a side door, my tie loose, my head buzzing. The parking lot was quiet, just a few cars left under the orange glow of the lamps. I sat behind the wheel for a long minute, staring at my hands on the steering wheel. Then I drove home through the dark streets of Eugene, the radio off, her voice replaying in my head. "You are making my heart do things it has not done in a long time. Do not let go just yet. If you want to know who I really am, find me after this is over." I did not sleep much that night. I sat on my couch, blazer tossed over a chair, staring at the ceiling. My chest still felt tight where her hand had rested. I kept thinking of her back in that role again, Jason's mother, hugging guests goodbye, helping gather gifts, smiling for photos. Who was I in that world? Nobody. Just some quiet guy from college who happened to be good at slow dancing when she needed someone. By morning, I convinced myself I had imagined half of it. That the wine and the lights and the music had blurred everything. That whatever she had felt, if she felt anything, was probably gone with the last song. Days went by. Work swallowed me up again. Servers, tickets, issues. I answered emails. I fixed problems. I went home. I gamed. I scrolled. But every quiet moment, she came back. The way she had looked at me in the garden when she said she was tired of being invisible, the way her eyes had lit up when I told her I saw her, the strength in her hand when she pressed it to my chest. I thought about finding her. I knew Jason's last name. I could have searched him up, clicked through his family photos, scrolled until I found her. I even opened my browser a few times, fingers hovering over the keys. But something stopped me. It felt wrong to pry into her life without her knowing. She had given me a choice at the wedding. If you want to know who I really am, find me. I had not taken it. Not then. Maybe that meant the door was closed. A week after the wedding, sitting at my desk in the office, staring at a screen full of code that refused to behave, my phone buzzed. Instagram. I barely used it. I followed some tech accounts, a few college friends, a couple of meme pages. Nobody important messaged me there. The notification showed a new message from an account I did not recognize. At Diana. Read. My heart jumped into my throat. I clicked the profile. A small round picture popped up. No makeup. Dark hair down around her shoulders. A bookshelf behind her. Same eyes. Same quiet power in them. My hands went cold. Her message was short. I hate social media. But I like finding the guy who danced with me without asking my age. I stared at the words so long the screen dimmed. She had found me, not by accident, not through Jason, on purpose. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I erased my first response twice. Everything I typed sounded like either a joke or a confession, and I did not know which was worse. Finally, I sent. And I liked the woman who made me forget how to think straight, even if it was just for 3 songs. It felt like too much the second I hit send. The reply came faster than I expected. Good. Because I am still thinking about those songs too. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. For a second I forgot I was at work. The office noise faded. The sound of keyboards, phones, printers, it all slipped away. We started talking. At first, it was small things. Safe things. She asked about my job. I told her about servers and clients who think the internet is broken is a precise error message. I asked about her work. She told me she did media consulting, strategy, campaigns, helping people say the right thing the right way. Little pieces of a life I had never bothered to imagine. We did not mention the wedding directly. No talk of the hall, the garden, the dance floor. But it was there in every message, some small echo behind the words. At night, lying in bed in the dark, I would reread our chats. The way she teased me about my coffee addiction. The way she said my quiet was not a flaw, just a different kind of loud. Once, she wrote, "You think too much. I can feel it in every word." I answered, "You see too much. I can feel it in every message." She sent a laughing emoji then. Maybe that is why we did not scare each other away. Days turned into a week. Then 2. The more we talked, the less the age gap felt like some giant wall in my head. She was still Jason's mom. She was still 20 years older than me. That did not go away. But she was also just Diana, someone who got tired, who read late at night, who listened to old songs because they reminded her of the parts of herself she had lost. One Wednesday evening, when the sky outside my window was turning pink and my laptop screen blurred from too many hours, another message came. There is a bookstore downtown. The quiet page. I will be there Saturday at 3 p.m. If you are free, come find me. If not, no hard feelings. We had good dances. I read it 3 times. It was the same offer she had given me at the wedding, but cleaner, brighter. No music, no alcohol, no excuse. Just a real place, in the middle of the day, in our town. I could pretend I did not see it. I could ignore it and blame work, or nerves, or age, or anything else. But as I sat there, the glow of my monitor reflecting off the window, I remembered the way her voice had cracked when she said she was tired of being invisible. I remembered the way she had whispered, "Do not let go just yet." I realized that if I stayed home Saturday, if I let her sit in that bookstore thinking I had chosen to forget, I would become one more person who looked away when she reached out. And I was so tired of looking away. I typed back, fingers shaking, "I will be there." She answered with only 2 words, "Good, Sean." For the first time in a long time, my weekend was not just days to fill. It was an hour in a small bookstore with a woman who had already pulled me out of myself once. And I had no idea what would happen when we were alone again, this time with no wedding to hide behind. The quiet page sat on the corner of a side street downtown, tucked between a bakery and a bike shop. I had driven past it before, never really seeing it. Saturday at 2:58, I stood on the sidewalk staring at the front window like it might stare back. Through the glass I could see shelves packed tight with books, a small counter, a chalkboard sign with the words "used," "loved," "waiting." Soft jazz drifted out when someone opened the door. My palms were sweaty. I checked my phone. No new messages. No last-minute change of plans. She had given me a time and a place. The rest was up to me. So I went in. The bell over the door rang. The smell of old pages and coffee wrapped around me. A few people wandered the aisles, heads bent over spines. A barista wiped the counter near a tiny espresso machine in the back. And there she was. Diana sat at a small table near the window, a paperback open in front of her, a mug of black coffee in her hand. No green dress this time. She wore a white button-up shirt, sleeves rolled to her elbows, and dark jeans. Her hair was pulled back into a loose ponytail. She looked softer, realer, still very much herself. She looked up as the bell rang, and when she saw me, something in her face eased. Her lips curved into a slow, real smile. "Sean," she said. "You came." "Yeah," I said, walking over, trying not to trip over my own feet. "I spent all week staring at screens. Books sounded like a good upgrade." She huffed out a quiet laugh and nodded to the chair across from her. "Sit," she said. "You will make the other customers nervous if you keep hovering." I sat. My heart did not get the message about calming down. There was a half-second of silence, and then the tension slipped away like someone had untied a knot. We started talking. At first it was simple. Work, the weather, the coffee, which she declared acceptable but not great. I told her about a server crash the day before. She told me about a client who wanted a natural media presence but also wanted everything controlled. Her voice was lighter than it had been at the wedding, no strain around the edges. When she laughed, it reached her eyes. After a while, the talk drifted past small things. She told me about her divorce, 5 years ago. No big scandal, just slow distance, and then an ending that felt both sudden and overdue. She talked about raising Jason mostly on her own, about moving for his schools, his chances, his starting job in Portland. "I made a lot of choices for other people," she said, tracing the rim of her mug with one finger. "For my son, for my husband, for stability." It felt right at the time. It probably was right, but somewhere in all that I put myself on mute. I listened, really listened. Every word sounded like a piece of the woman who had stood in the garden and said she was tired of being invisible. "Do you regret it?" I asked. She thought about it. "I do not regret being his mother," she said. "I do not regret being there when he needed me. But I regret letting that be the only thing I was. I regret not fighting harder to keep the rest of me alive." She looked up at me, eyes steady. "The wedding made that very clear," she said. Everyone looked at me and saw the same thing. Jason's mom. Proud. Strong. Done. Then you looked at me like you had never decided who I was supposed to be. You just saw me. My face got hot. I stared at my hands. "I did," I said. "I do." Her gaze softened. "What about you?" she asked. What are you besides servers and games and disappearing at weddings? The question sat between us. I could have shrugged it off. Made a joke. That was safer. But she had gone first. She had handed me her truth. It felt wrong to pretend. I wanted to write once, I said. Stories, not code. I even started some in college. Then life happened. Rent, jobs, safe choices. I told myself it was just for a while. Then a while kept going. I let out a breath. I keep people at arm's length, I said. It feels easier until it doesn't. Then you wake up and realize there's no one who really knows you. You become your job, your screen, your apartment. Her eyes stayed on my face the whole time, like nothing I said surprised her. Just like you were more than a mother, I said. I was more than the quiet guy in the corner. I just forgot. Until that dance. Her jaw tightened for a second like she was holding on to something. Then she smiled again, small and real. You were trouble from the first step, she said. We both laughed, and it broke the weight of the moment. Time moved strangely. The bookstore emptied out, little by little. The barista started stacking chairs near the back. The light outside shifted from bright to soft. At some point, Diana picked up her book and slid it across the table to me. A collection of poems, the cover worn, pages soft. Keep this, she said. I frowned, picking it up. It is your book, I said. She nodded toward it. I know. I also know you need a reason to find me again, and bringing that back is as good as any. There was that little spark again in her eyes. That edge between tease and test. I thumbed the pages and saw a small, sticky note marking one poem. There was a line underlined in blue ink. I want to feel my heart again, even if it breaks. I looked up. She watched me, not smiling now, but open. This is how you feel? I asked. It is how I felt, she said. On that dock, on that dance floor, less so now. Because of me? I asked, echoing my own question from the wedding. This time she did not hesitate. Partly, she said, partly because of me deciding I am allowed to want more than a role. But you helped, more than you know. My throat got tight. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. Inside, the store owner flipped the sign on the door to closed, but did not rush us. We were the only ones left. We stood up at the same time. The air between us changed. Closer. Denser. At the edge of the shelves, near the door, we stopped. People walked by outside. Shapes sliding past the window. Diana stepped closer. Not much. Just enough that I could feel the warmth of her through that white shirt. She looked up at me, eyes dark and steady. I am not going to lie to you, she said. I do not know what this is. I do not know what it should be. I am older. You are younger. I am your friend's mother, even if you and Jason are not as close as you used to be. It is messy. I nodded. My heart hammered. I know, I said. It scares me. Me too, she said. But it scares me more to think of going back to pretending I do not feel it. Something broke open in my chest then. All the careful distance I had put between myself and everyone else did not stand a chance against that. I took a small step, closing the last bit of space. I could smell her perfume, faint and familiar. My hand trembled as I reached up and brushed a loose strand of hair away from her cheek. Sean, she said, my name a warning and a welcome at the same time. If you want me to stop, I said, tell me. She held my gaze for a long second. Then she shook her head just once. Do not let go just yet, she said, the same words as the wedding, only softer, fully awake. So I did not. I slid my hand around the back of her neck, gentle, giving her time to pull away. She did not. She leaned in, and I met her halfway. Our lips touched. Not cinematic, not perfect, just real, warm, careful. The kiss was slow. No rush, no grabbing, just a deep, steady joining, like the slow steps of that first dance. My free hand found her waist. Her fingers curled into the back of my shirt, All the static in my head went quiet. When we finally parted, we stayed close, foreheads almost touching, breaths mingling. She opened her eyes first. "Now you definitely cannot forget me," she said, voice low and a little unsteady. "I did not stand a chance the moment you walked onto that dance floor," I said. We both smiled, small and shy and amazed. We did not make promises. We did not sketch out a future. There were too many unknowns, too many things to untangle. But we did not pretend this was nothing either. "I will text you," I said. "I will answer," she said. On the sidewalk, under the streetlight, we paused one last time. She squeezed my hand, then let go and walked toward her car. I watched her go, that same mix of fear and pull vibrating through me. On the ride home, the city lights blurred past, and for once, I did not feel like a background extra in my own life. I felt like someone in the middle of a story that was just starting. Back in my apartment, I set her book on my desk, the sticky note still marking that poem. I touched the page with the underlined line and smiled. I did not know where this would go. Maybe we would find a way to fit into each other's lives. Maybe circumstances would pull us apart. Maybe it would be complicated. It already was. But one thing was clear. At a wedding, where we were both supposed to blend into the edges of other people's happiness, we saw each other. On a dance floor, in a garden, in a small bookstore in Eugene, we refused to look away. And whatever came next, I knew this. She was not invisible to me. And for the first time in a long time, I did not feel invisible either.